Hello and welcome back to the Darkcast. This episode is going to be calling a quick play. I'm your host Nick.
And this is Lucas. And today we're going to be talking about that new peace deal between Israel and the UAE. And we're also going to be going over the VP pick for Biden.
All right, so could you tell me a little bit about what the peace deal that Trump is securing between Israel and the United Arab Emirates actually entails?
Yeah, so I've just pulled up this article here from the whitehouse.gov. So let's kind of just get into what it is. Basically, Donald Trump's been has brokered an agreement to normalize relations between the UAE and Israel. This is like the first agreement between Israel and any major Arab country since 1994. So it's kind of a big thing. It's been 26 years since any sort of peace deal like this has been created. So it's a pretty big deal, but let's get into just exactly kind of some more of what's in it. So the countries are committed to the exchange of embassies and ambassadors. And that's something I didn't know they didn't have embassies. I thought all countries had
That's what
embassies
I that's what I thought as
in
well.
the others, but it looks like that's not the case. So that's actually seems like a really good thing that they're going to be doing because I mean now they're going to be they're going to be working in each other's countries, so it's bringing relations closer. So this is I think a good thing.
I think it's a good step to getting peace in the Middle East. An area that's been war torn for in the modern era, 50 years.
Oh yeah, it's been having a rough time for a while now. So, looks like they're going to begin cooperation in a broad range of fields, including education, healthcare, trade, and security. So, that's pretty good. I'd be interested to see what that's going to look like in education, healthcare, trade, and security. Like, how are they going to do that with security? Are they going to, what are they, I don't know, something with their militaries becoming closer or maybe becoming allies? That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, and Israel and the UAE are actually very prosperous countries in that area. And I think if the UAE is going to try and have peace with Israel, I think maybe a lot of other Islamic nations will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Hopefully they can continue this and they can keep doing more peace there. I think it's a really good step though. So looks like, and this is surprising, the UAE is the first major Arab state to recognize Israel since the Israel-Jordan peace treaty in 1994, which is because a lot of these countries don't even recognize Israel.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
one more starting to, that's another good thing. So now the White House is saying that it was made possible by President Trump's leadership and expertise as a deal maker. And I don't know how good he is at making deals, but I think I mean it's good to give him credit for doing something good. So I think it's been really good. Um, they say he's been building trust with our regional allies because both of these countries were regional allies of the United States.
Hmm.
So it seems to me that Donald Trump would have leveraged that to be like, you're both our ally, you need to work together. So I don't know exactly how he did it, but it's going.
Yeah, I mean, more steps of peace in that area is absolutely a win. I think there's very little way you can spin that in a negative way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have heard some people are saying that well, the UAE and Israel were both our allies and pretty much working together already, just not like out in the open, but and so it's not that big of a deal. But I disagree. I think announcing to the world that you're going to be normalizing relations and whatnot is a really big step because I mean it really sets precedent for if we can get along, other countries can get along
Hmm.
with Israel. I think it's really something a big deal here. So let's see. This deal is going to provide a foundation for further advances towards regional peace. Um, The United States, according to this, believes that more Arab and Muslim countries will follow the UAE's lead and normalize relations with Israel. Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. You know.
And hopefully that is the case. I mean, I think when things with Israel kind of mellow out with a lot of the other countries, especially, because they've been having the problems with the Palestinians and a lot of the Arabic countries have been backing Palestine. I think, you know,
Hmm.
and then Israel and Palestine can work on a peaceful um, way of, solving their issues, which, I think this is probably the first step in doing that is having a lot of Arab, Arabic and Muslim countries just normalize their relations. And
Yeah. So let's kind of go on and get into a little bit more of what's in this. So this agreement's a major breakthrough for Muslims throughout the world who wish to come in peace to pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as they will now be able to fly to Tel Aviv through Abu Dhabi to do so and will be welcome. I mean, that's huge.
yeah,
Allowing direct flights from the UAE to Israel, because like a lot of Arab countries, if you even have an Israeli stamp on your passport, they won't let you in at all. Um, they'll kick you out. So, and I mean that's another big step, letting the citizens of the two countries intermingle, kinda, because now Israelis will be able to visit the UAE, and citizens of the UAE will be able to visit Israel, and that will allow more conversation between them. So it's easy for a government to demonize the people of another country when your citizens are never allowed to meet them.
hmm
But like when you allow that transfer of people, it gets a little harder because then you see that, oh, they're not really that different than we are. So I think this is really gonna start to encourage peace, and the more the Israelis and UAE citizens meet, they're gonna not want to go to war
yeah.
or whatnot.
And I am curious to see though how the media will interpret this peace deal.
Oh yeah.
I think there will be some that praise it. I think there will be some that criticize it. I am curious to see what their criticisms are for. And there might be justified criticisms with the peace deal that the White House didn't put in um,
Hmm.
this I guess briefing. Um, so I would be interested in seeing that. And although obviously based on what the White House put out, it looks like a great deal that will definitely stabilize what's been going on in the Middle East. And
Hmm.
once that happens, I actually think our relations with Russia could potentially get better.
Oh yeah.
Because there's also the conspiracy theory that the Russian troops or the Russians have been putting bounty on our troops' heads.
Hmm. Yep. I don't know, man. We'll see. See how this goes. I think it's a great first step. I think we need to keep going and down this road. I think we need to keep encouraging countries to work with Israel and try to create a lasting peace. It's finishing up this article here. Um, they're going to be encouraging visits, hopefully helping to counter extremists who use a false narrative that they can't pray at this mosque, and they're going to be expanding business and financial ties between them. And I think these are some of the bigger economies in the Middle East, right? Two of the biggest.
Yep, they're up there. I think
So it's
UAE, Israel. Yep, they're
getting two big economies in the Middle East intertwined is really gonna help with peace, because when your economy is intertwined with another, it's hard to fight them at war.
hmm
Because if their economy goes down and it's intertwined with yours, it's gonna bring yours down. So we'll see.
particularly if we were to get into war with China.
Oh yeah,
It'd be bad for both of us.
I
Similar.
mean, 80% of our imports come from China.
hmm
So like, if we go to war with them, there's 80% of our imports that are lost, and that's not just small trinkets. It's like medicine and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. Um, yeah, they're saying they want to expand the business and financial ties, hoping to accelerate growth and economic opportunity. I think that's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah,
Um,
I give credit where credit's due. I think, if all this comes to fruition, I think this could definitely be the thing that President Trump is remembered for.
oh, absolutely.
I mean, you know,
I think it's important to give um, credit to the Prime Minister of Israel and the Crown Prince of I think he's the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi there, um, who have also done a lot of work towards doing this. And I mean, it's not just Trump's victory. I mean, his entire administration's been doing a
oh,
lot of work on
absolutely,
that, and
absolutely.
so I think this is really just a win for the Trump administration, and we'll see how this affects his approval rating and how it affects the election that's upcoming here. How many days are we away from the election? It's August and it's in November, so
August 15th. Yeah, it's less than 3 months
it's
away.
less than 3 months, and this is huge. I mean, people have been trying to secure more Middle Eastern peace deals for a long time. So if this sticks and whatnot, I think it's really going to be something that boosts Trump this election.
Yeah, and speaking of the election, news this week as well is Joe Biden is picked his vice presidential running mate.
Who's his vice presidential running mate?
Well, someone who I'm not a huge fan of, which would be Kamala Harris.
Oh man.
So I was a little actually skeptical when I read the first article because Kamala Harris during the debates was extremely critical of Joe Biden. She rarely praised him on anything he did,
Hmm.
and now she kind of just uh, turned away and turned around and
That's
became his
yeah.
running mate.
It's kind of funny because I remember back when what's her name, the Senate staffer that has accused Biden of sexual assault.
Oh,
I forget what her name is.
I also forget. It's Reed.
Tara Reid.
Tara Reid. Yep.
Tara Reid. Yeah. Back when all that was coming out, Kamala Harris says she believes Tara Reid and all that, and now she's going to be his vice president. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, and
I believe Tara Reid. That man's a sexual predator. Do you want to be my vice president?
yeah, and this was
Yep, I don't believe Tara Reid anymore. What? I never said anything like
Tara
that.
Reid. Who's that?
Yeah.
I she also like during the Democratic National Convention during their debates, she accused him of being racist.
Mhm.
Said that what was it? Did he stop the busing law? He tried to block the busing laws.
Yes.
So she
And he was co-author of the 1994 crime bill.
yeah.
So,
So I don't know how they're gonna be. Now they're buddy buddy. They're friends, I guess. And
yeah. And I mean, Kamala Harris isn't really known as and I think one of the biggest issues with Kamala Harris being picked as Joe Biden's VP is she's not a progressive candidate.
sh
She's been considered a centrist for a while, and so it's really going to be interesting to see what the far left and all the progressives have to say about this. Because I mean, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't seem like the two that are gonna usher in the revolution and all
I
that.
agree.
I mean,
Joe Biden by himself, I think he'd be so president. I think the question of his mental capabilities in recent times have been definitely what people have been concerned with the most.
yeah,
However, Kamala Harris scares me.
Kamala Harris is definitely a scary candidate. I mean,
She's, if I can paraphrase what Tulsi Gabbard said, she kept people in jail longer than their sentence to get cheap labor for the state of California.
that's disgusting.
She when this was all, I think, when she was the Attorney General for California, the
Hmm.
state of California, and um, she extremely harshly criminalized marijuana use, and then she said she did it herself.
Yeah, dude, I heard about that. Her bragging that her family smokes while she was locking people up
It's alright.
for cheap
She
labor.
inhaled. She's
She
alright.
she inhaled, so
Um, among a few other things. And then, like I said, this was all pointed out by probably the best Democratic candidate in the 2020 cycle was Tulsi Gabbard. But
I agree there.
and those are just a couple examples of I can't remember. Tulsi said a couple other things during that debate. But it's just scary. Oh, she also blocked evidence that would free an innocent man from death row.
Oh yeah, she didn't want it was that case where they were gonna take um a DNA sample from an old case and test it to see if this man was innocent or not, and I think they did, and
Hmm.
it turned out he was innocent. But she wanted to block that really bad, and I mean that's kind of crazy. Like, seems like she's just protecting her record there.
Yeah, I think she really at that point cared about her conviction rates. And how I think if she wanted to seem tough on crime, the state of California, that's fine for her. But I mean, she's definitely done some sketchy things
Oh,
over there,
definitely.
and I don't know her policies, but I can't imagine they'd be drastically different from most of the other Democratic candidates. Gun control in some way or another. Not supporting, I should say supporting abortion. Increase funding to Planned Parenthood.
Hmm.
Stuff like that, which I won't get into. Um, but politics aside, I don't think she really stands out from any other Democratic candidate. Um,
No.
and there are others that she had no real defining. That was her. I think that's what her problem was in the election cycle. She had no policy that really stood out among the other candidates.
Yeah, I
She was
mean,
kind of
really,
cookie cutter.
she just kind of was saying what other people were saying to try to get elected. So she didn't really have anything unique to her that.
Like Yang had the UBI.
Hmm.
Well, they all had some form of.
Bernie's got his socialized medicine that he wants.
Well, they all want that though.
I think most of them have
Yeah.
just kind of been copying Bernie on that.
Mayor Pete had the Medicare for all those who want it,
Hmm.
which that's a plan. That's a policy I
I think
could
that's
get behind.
a far better policy than Medicare for all.
Yeah.
I
The
think is
nationalized healthcare is not a good system.
I think and I think the biggest problem with one something like that would just be if the government says, well, we're not going to pay higher prices. So like with what we have now, the government, like with Medicaid and Medicare, the government refuses to pay those higher prices. So that's often passed through to people with private insurance.
Hmm.
So it raises your private insurance costs. So it's like a cross subsidy there.
Yeah,
And I think that's not, yeah, I think that if the government wants to have a plan for people who want that, then it needs to be competitive, and we don't need to have that cross subsidy raising the insurance prices of people with private insurance.
yeah, I agree, and I think if we were to nationalize um, the healthcare system, then if you look at what happened to the post office before companies like FedEx, UPS, DHL all came along, um, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, there was no tracking your package, there was no 2-day shipping, heck, there was no confirmation that your package was even ordered, sent, or delivered. I mean,
Yep.
and that's what happens when there's no competition. There's no.
I don't think that came out until like the 2000s, maybe 2010s. When did 2-day shipping and package
Oh,
tracking all come out?
well, Amazon offers free 2-day shipping to its members, but 2-day shipping has been around probably since the 90s.
Since the
But
90s.
you had to pay an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah,
The
true.
express, I think it was like the express shipping.
Yeah. There's been a lot going on with the post office lately too. Um, People say that it's been under attack by the Trump administration, but
Rightfully
we'll
so. They
see.
lost one of my packages the other day.
I mean, I don't have much to say in defense of the USPS. I mean, they're I think they need to run as a business, and if they're not able to, then I don't think we need to. I forget. I saw this. It's like they're losing a couple $1 billion every single year in taxpayer money, just because. I mean, nobody sends packages anymore. I mean, what does the USPS really carry? They carry letters and packages, and people generally don't send packages via USPS, because I mean UPS is like if you're getting something from a company like Amazon, it's coming UPS or FedEx or whatever.
Or
It's
even Amazon deliver,
yeah, it's generally not the USPS.
a
So
lot of times now they do small packages most of the time, stuff that fits in your mailbox. But other than that, they like Lucas said, they've been declining. They lose taxpayer money.
mhm.
This is all uh, speculation, but they like we said, they can't function like a business. And I think, like, looping back to what we were talking about earlier, any nationalized healthcare, I think, would do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I hear about nationalized healthcare, they say is it would be cheaper, and it may be cheaper, but just like the USPS, it would not be as good as the private alternative.
No, I mean, and a lot of the misconception about the American healthcare system is that if you can't pay for it, they won't treat you. No, if you're dying, they will absolutely fix what's wrong with you. That's what a lot of people seem to not understand about American healthcare. And I'm not saying American healthcare is perfect. It's far from it. However, if my appendix were to burst and I was poorer than dirt, they wouldn't turn me away.
No, you'd still get that.
No, they just say, all right, now you owe us $15,000.
And
We can put you on a
yeah.
payment plan. I fucking would have a hard time of it, but
And I mean, realistically, especially if you were really poor and wouldn't be able to afford that off, you can always, I think, file for, is it bankruptcy? And I think, yeah, I mean, it'll affect your credit score, but I think there's like ways to get around medical debt, and especially if you really can't afford it. So, I mean, it's not like a death sentence if you can't afford it, because you'll still get treatment.
yeah, you'll
Um,
just be
I think,
in debt
yeah,
for a while.
and we could get into what some of the biggest issues with our healthcare system are, but I don't think that's a topic for today. So,
No.
Joe Biden, Kamala Harris
Yep.
versus Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
Mike Pence, they've been talking about him dumping Pence, though.
I've heard that, but we'll see. I think he's gonna hold on to Pence, especially because Pence is a strong Christian.
Yep.
He'll hold that strong Christian voter base. So uh, we'll see. I don't know what Joe Biden's thinking picking Kamala Harris. I mean,
Yeah, she was definitely the most critical of Joe Biden during the election cycle.
and and most like progressives and people on the far left don't like Kamala Harris at all. You
Well,
know.
yeah, she's kind of a phony progressive, in my opinion, similar to Hillary Clinton. I think
Hmm.
she says what the people want, but doesn't really care about what the people want, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah. So we'll see what goes on with that. Mm, peace in the Middle East and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
So
I think that just about wraps up what we're going to talk about today.
yeah,
Thanks for listening, everybody.
if you've enjoyed listening to this mini cast or quick, was it quick cast we're calling it?
Whatever we want to call it, we'll figure something out in the title.
If you've enjoyed listening, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and definitely share with anybody. It would really help out the channel. So
Absolutely.
from us here at the Darkcast, thank you and have a nice week.